Hello, 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 everybody. It's your girl, Ashley, the amateur expert, coming to you live today for this episode of Talk Tuesday. It has been a minute. I've missed y'all, and I'm happy to be back. It's only been 2 weeks, so I'm being a little bit dramatic, but I'm happy. I'm happy to be back. I hope you all are well. We are introducing or interviewing or having a conversation or however you want to say it. One of my good friends, my ween sister. And if this is your first time tuning in, we typically go live every week. And we talk to people about their career path, their idea of success, the tips and motivators that they used along the way, and just get some inspiration. I truly believe that in everyone's journey, in everyone's story, there's room to inspire. And so Tondea is in the room, so we are going to get started. Hey, everyone. Hey, 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 everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey,
Happy Talk
Senegal.
Tuesday.
Happy Black Tuesday.
I'm so happy to have you here today. So we had you on asking for a friend Friday a couple of weeks last year. Wow,
I
time is
know. Is
time
it
is
a whole year?
flying.
But happy anniversary.
Happy Weeniversary! Happy Weeniversary
I
to all of
know.
my class 9 Ween sisters. Today is the day that we found out that we were selected. Yes,
Wing. What we do?
love
Wing.
y'all. Okay, yes, W's for Ween. Here we are. Don't know how we got here, but we are
We
there.
here.
Okay, so sis, I want you to please, you're working on so many cool things. So I want to jump in because I want to honor your time. Um, Tell us, please, 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 who you are and what you are doing currently for work.
Ooh. So, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Tondea, and everyone calls me Dola.
Dola.
Dola is my nickname. And currently, I just launched a podcast.
Love that.
And I am scared out of my mind because I don't know what I was thinking. Hey, Scuba Steve. Hey, Steve. Hey, Scoop. But yeah, I started a podcast and I'm still currently like doing my regular 9 to 5
Okay.
and
So we got
still doing
an entrepreneur on our hands.
sure do. I am still in business with my best friend. We have our wedding and event planning company called
Love
Stacy
that.
Rose Events,
Amen.
but I decided to take a leap of faith and jump out here and create a podcast. And my podcast is about the things that I'm most passionate about and that I love, which
Mm-hmm.
are in this order: sports, music, Black culture.
Per. Okay, okay, okay.
Per.
So we're gonna jump into that a little bit later, but right now I want to know when you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up, and what was the motivating factor behind that?
So when I was a little girl, I always wanted to do hair. I always wanted to do hair. I was always around the house, just like playing with the curling iron, just curling my hair, spritzing my hair all the way down.
I love it.
I had a lot of spritz. I was washing my hair. I even did some of the. Oh my gosh, I'm almost ashamed to even say this,
Uh-oh.
but
Your secret is safe with us and us.
I'm so scared to say this. But I remember it's so crazy because in just me thinking about it, it kind of goes back to why I'm doing what I'm doing almost in a sense. So I
Mm.
remember as a child, I just remember this as a child that I always wanted to do hair, right?
Yep.
But I stuck my head in the toilet to wash my hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this because it was during basketball season. And I was walking around the hair, just dipping my head in the toilet, popping up, just walking through the house.
Okay.
And I just knew, I just always wanted to do hair. So it's so crazy because while everybody was in the other room watching basketball,
Mm-hmm.
I was in the back messing up my hair like a child.
Trying to get it together.
Trying to get it together. So I always knew I was going to do hair. I always had this dream I was going to do hair, or I was going to be a teacher or whatever. But hair was the top priority because
Hair
I
is
was
the
doing
top
hair down.
priority.
I was
I
laying heads down.
love that. Okay, so what did you think as a youngster? What did you think success was?
To be honest, to 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 be honest,
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't know what success really was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I grew up in the house with my great grandmother and my great great aunt. They were they're sisters. My great great aunt passed away when I was in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
but I grew up with them. And my great great aunt, she was over the house. She was the backbone, so she took care of all the kids. My
Mm-hmm.
grandmother, she always went to work. So even the around me, I always knew about work.
Yeah.
I didn't know about success.
Yeah.
I just knew my grandmother worked her job for 44 years, and I knew my dad was in the military, so I always knew that people worked,
Mm-hmm.
but no one ever talked about being successful. So unless I was in school, that would be the only time that I would probably hear about success, but I
For
just
sure.
don't recall, you know, what
Thinking
success was.
about,
Thinking
yeah,
about like success, I just knew the future was okay. I'm gonna just go to school, do hair. Da, 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 da. I didn't know like success meant so many other things
for sure.
in life.
I think that's a good point because I think a lot of times, um, a lot of it I think is dependent on what is taught or
Mm-hmm.
what your surroundings are. I don't know that my mom and I ever had a real conversation when I was young about like, being successful or things of that nature. I think for me, when I was young, I saw um what other people had that was
Mm-hmm.
maybe more than what I had, and
Mm-hmm.
in a comparison was like, okay, I need to get that. So what do I need to do to get that? And
Right.
maybe in my idolizing of them or what they had, thought that was success, but it was never really something that was brought up at in the house at all. Um, so for me now, I want to know. So although you may be slaying heads and hair on a non-professional level, you are quite the businesswoman. And so I
I
want to know if you
know.
can share with us your journey. How did you get from, the idea of wanting to be in cosmetology and or a teacher to now, being an entrepreneur and working in event production and things of that nature?
Oh man. So outside of me wanting to be, slaying heads for my good sisters,
Mm-hmm.
um, as I journeyed through my middle school, high school years, I wanted to work in healthcare and I
Okay.
wanted to be a social worker. So I had this whole idea, like shout out to Miss Wright for HOSA and everything when I was in high school, but I knew I wanted to work in healthcare.
Mm.
And I just wanted to be a social worker. I just knew that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. I and I think I would say it all came from when my great great aunt, when she was in the nursing home, and I would go and visit her all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of seeing certain things, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be a social worker. I want to help these kids. I want to help kids, that are these in homes, disenfranchised homes. I just wanted to help people. I
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to help people. I know that is a passion of mine. It's helping people.
For
I've
sure.
realized that in life throughout this journey. I get to college, freshman year, I'm good. Sophomore year, is when the light bulb went off.
Okay. Okay.
The light bulb went off my sophomore year. I was taking, oh my gosh, I hated this particular math class because
Uh-oh.
oh my God, I hated it so much. I can't even think of the name of it because I blocked it out of
Blocked it all the way out.
I blocked out because I failed it. I, I
Mm.
failed it. And matrices, it had to do with matrices. And I hated the class because the professor was foreign. He wasn't trying to help us. I was just so over it. So my sophomore year, I remember meeting Ninth Wonder. And I met Ninth, it was my sophomore
And
year.
share where you went to school?
I went to school at the North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. Shout out to my Eagles.
Okay.
Best
Like,
HBCU. Look,
all right.
best HBCU. But I met Ninth, and Ninth was also one of my professors. And I also was working on the following year, I worked on my school's homecoming. So I was a homecoming chair. So we're planning events. I'm working with Ninth. We were talking about getting Rick Ross. So I had met Ninth and I started attending his class before I actually became a student in his class. And the light bulb hit me and I was like, yo, like I realized at that moment, like I knew I loved music, but I didn't know how much I loved music up
Got
until
it.
that point.
And
And I
what was
was
his class?
intro to hip hop. It was an
Okay.
intro to hip hop
Okay.
class, and we learned about everything from the beginning of time to hip hop up until that time, which was in God knows 2009.
Got it. Okay.
2009. And the social work and so between the matrices class, attending ninth class, and then this one social work class, and I was just sitting in there, and when my teacher was telling us like everything that we would have to go through, I said, this ain't it. This ain't it. I don't think I could just sit there and like I have a heart for people, but I know that for me, because I can't go see a child who's in a horrible situation because I would cry. I would have to be strong. I knew that was not me.
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't do that. And from ninth class was when I realized social work is not for me. So I changed my major. My sophomore year, I changed my major. My department chair fussed me out. She was like, I don't know why you're changing your major to mass communications. You're not going to get a job. She literally, Dr. Creighton went off on me in her office. She was like, you're not going to get a job. I was like, okay, Dr. Creighton, I'm still changing my major. Mass comm it is.
You got to follow your heart.
I don't regret it. I graduated from Central. I ended up working. I did a marketing internship for this company called Sodexo. It's a food service company. Worked for Sodexo for a couple of years. And I worked at 2 different schools in North Carolina. And then I said, I need to go back to school. And I realized over time that I started to really, really, really indulge more into sports. And I didn't anybody that, if you speak to anybody from North Carolina Central, they will tell you I am a super Eagle, meaning I was at all the games, front row, cheering, going off on, like I was that fan. I am an NCCU super fan. So everybody knew me at the games. Everybody
Okay.
But I knew I loved sports. And one of my mentors, her name is Shanika, and she said, you need to go back to school and get your master's degree. I applied. I researched schools. I applied, went back, got my MBA in sports and athletic administration from the Ling University.
Okay.
And I did my internship. So at that point in time, I came to a crossroads. And I had to do an internship, of course, before I could graduate. And I applied to different internships with different sports organizations. And I also worked at my school's athletics department.
Okay.
So I applied to the Charlotte Hornets. I took a leap of faith and I applied to the Charlotte Hornets. Got the interview. Speaking of which, I am wearing my Charlotte basketball shirt today.
Shout out to NC. Okay.
And I got the internship, but the internship required me to quit my full-time job with benefits.
Okay.
I tried to convince my boss to let me do both. He was like, the job, your job requires you to be here. Like, it has to be full
Mm-hmm.
time. I took a leap of faith and I quit my job. Like,
That
I
is a
quit.
leap for sure.
I quit my job. I had an apartment. I had a car payment. I quit my job because I didn't know when the opportunity was going to come back
For
around.
sure.
And it's hard trying to break into the sports business. And so I quit my job and I quit my full-time job with business and everything. And I did the internship for a semester. And that was the struggle. It's like I had to decide if I wanted to do the internship for a semester versus a job. So I
Right.
did. And so then fast forward, I had applied to a bunch of different jobs after my internship. Nothing, didn't get any bait. Nothing. I went and did interviews. I flew out to Seattle twice to interview with the Seattle Seahawks. The first time I didn't make it to the second round. The second time I made it to the final round. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
made it to the final round. I didn't get it. And it kind of really, I went into a sunken place at that point in time because I just like, I don't know like what I'm like, I don't I don't understand like what is going on, why I can't find a job. I could not find a job for nothing. So then fast forward again, 26 2017, I reached out to NC State. I reached out to a couple of different schools around here
Mm-hmm.
and started working at NC State for free. So now mind you, when I quit my job, I went to work for the Hornets for free.
Wow.
For free. I didn't make any money. And I was driving to and from Charlotte every day from Raleigh. And that's a 2.5 drive in the morning and a two
Oof.
and a half drive back home. Because
Baby.
I was determined. I was determined. So then I started working for NC State. But in between that time, I had fell out of love with sports.
Mm.
And then I started working at NC State. I got a little bit more experience under my belt, started applying for jobs again, still nothing. And at that point, I was like, I just gave up.
Yeah.
I gave
I can
up.
see, but I can see how, or I can see how you were pushed to that decision.
Yeah, I end up giving up. And then, as you know, you learned about me within this past year. I was in a horrible relationship, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being in that relationship really deterred me from even pursuing sports again.
Mm.
And then fast forward to 2019, in the 2019, 2020, something clicked. Something clicked, and it was like throughout that time, and of course we'll talk about more about this later, but throughout that time, things started clicking for me. Like I'm trying to get myself back together, getting myself back
Mm-hmm.
together. And in 2020, when I ended the relationship with said person,
Yeah.
I figured out what I wanted to do
Love
and I
that.
started working on it. And then I met my beautiful wing sisters in June, July. And from there, you all have inspired me to do things that I never thought I would do. And I'm
Okay.
just jumping on, taking leaps of faith. Like I just even thinking about it, like my journey has been taking leaps of faith. And I have this thing where like I always felt like rejection. I always felt rejected. And not just in rejected in getting a job, but rejected in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
rejected in so many different areas of my life to where it's just like, when is my time? Like
Yeah. That's so real.
when? And it has been like a journey just to even get to this point. So it's just like,
That is so real. And I thank you for sharing so transparently, because what I'm hearing from your story, and I know this about you personally, but there's a tenacity in you, right? And so there are many times that we'll be going through our journey that we will feel like we want to
whew,
give up. We might even give up on something for a little while because it gets to be heavy. And one of the things I've noticed for me is that when things start to get heavy, I just sort of black out, right? And then I
Mm-hmm.
just accept the status quo. But I know, I know for me, like I know for you, we're destined for greatness. And
Right.
so, like you said, something hit. There was a light that went off. There's something that tells you, like, nah, this ain't it. This is not what it's supposed to be. And so, and once you start to realize that, relationships start to change,
Mm.
weights
Mm.
get lifted, and you
Okay.
get clarity. I think for me that has been,
Oof.
in my experience, I've received clarity, because I stopped adapting to other people's thoughts of what I should be and what I
Mm-hmm.
should do, um, and I because I know you personally, I can say that I know the same thing is for you, or that same thing that you experienced, and so I want to know,
Ooh.
from your journey, sis, what is something that you have learned, or you're still in the process of learning, that you wish you would have learned sooner?
Um. Oof. Uh. Man, it's crazy because you know I do still do my therapy, and I encourage everybody to do therapy. But
Amen.
my therapist and I, that's something that we talk about regularly about, you know, the journey and where I've come from and what I've learned. And I think that most recently, I can say the most recent thing I realized,
Okay.
um, because it's been a lot, is that it's gonna be okay.
Baby.
And you
That
know,
that is it.
one of the, one of the things that I've struggled with as even as an adult and as a child, like I spoke about, rejection, and I'm a person who don't like to do the hard things all the time, or I like to have the hard conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and I've struggled more recently with having hard conversations and knowing that whatever the outcome is going to be okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'm a natural Virgo, so for me everything has to be it has to be. I have to know what's next, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times I realize I can't control what's next, and it's like, and sometimes I get frustrated within my own self, because like you know what you're supposed to be doing, and then I
Yeah.
just go home and I just be like, but I'm scared.
Mm.
And I think, like, even with doing this podcast, like I said in the beginning, like I am. Can I cuss? I am. I am scared. Look, I am scared shitless out of my mind. Like
I get
I
it.
am. I'm so scared, and it's like so many other things that I want to do, but because I'm scared, but it's like it's okay. Like I'm scared. Like, oh, I might not achieve it. I might not be. It's like, and I look at my age because I am 31,
Mhm.
fine 31 at that.
Girl,
I'm
you don't
not.
look a day over 21, 2.
Thank you, girl.
You welcome.
Like, I'm not married. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have kids. Like, I don't have anything. So it's like, now I'm just like, you know what? If it happens, it happens. I'm just gonna jump out there, and if it doesn't, like, if I fail, it's okay. Like, if it doesn't work, it's okay. But I know I
Mm.
don't want to be complacent and not realize that I didn't try either.
So I just had the same exact conversation with one of the Ween, co-founders. Christy shared with me that she was going through something, and because I was going through the same thing, right? I'm trying to launch,
Mm-hmm.
not trying, I am launching this brand. I am doing the podcast. I am getting apparel out to retail, right? The thing that you said that resonated with me is I am scared to do it, right? I don't want to fail. I
Yes.
don't want to this. I don't want to. But I'm a little bit of a punk, but I'm not that much of a punk, right? And so like I don't want to have to say to myself, I don't want to realize, I don't want my dreams to actualize because I'm afraid to them.
Mm, that's the one. That is the one.
And so what Christy said to me was write it down and repeat it. I'm not doing this because I'm afraid to do it.
I wish I could heart. I wish I could
Asinine.
heart this.
She was like, that sounds crazy, right? And I was like, yes. Right? But that's realistic. It's realistic, right? So whenever I confront something, it's like, I don't want to say I'm too scared to do it. So I have to do it.
I know.
It doesn't make it easy. So let's just make that a fact. It doesn't make
It
it
doesn't.
easier, but
Mm-mm.
it also is giving me an extra push because I used to be okay with not doing, right? And just
Mm-hmm.
not trying. But I don't want to be
Right.
that person. I don't want my dreams not to come true because I didn't try and
Right.
because I was afraid.
Yes.
Um, so now that or now that you have lived and experienced life, and I'm guessing that you may or may not have created a definition of success. And if you have, what is it? How do you define success today?
Hmm. Oh man. It's crazy just in thinking about like everything that we've discussed up until this point. If I was to define success, and I've never really thought about it. Like I know everybody like Drake has a song, I just want to be successful. But success is also what we make it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can say that I've done everything that I said I was going to do, whether it flourished, whether it failed, I know I successfully accomplished a goal I said I was going to do.
Love that.
So if I'm going to say I'm going to do this podcast, I'm going to say I did the podcast. Now, whether the podcast fail or whether it goes on to have 1.2 million followers, I did it.
Which we're claiming the latter.
Which it's not going to fail. It's going to succeed. Now, if
True.
we're gonna talk about success, we're gonna say it's gonna succeed. Okay.
That's what we're talking about, sis.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just define success as least being for me is that I did everything. I've gained everything. I've gained everything from what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
I've gained friendships. I've gained relationships. I've gained at least something. Something has come out of it. Whether
A new skill set,
something, a new
mm-hmm.
job opportunity, something. At least
And
I did it.
also I think one thing that you can learn is I don't like this and I don't want to do it anymore.
And we're going to talk about that.
I think that's another thing that we can sometimes gyp ourselves from if we don't try. Because if you don't try, then you don't know if you like it or you don't like it, and you don't have the opportunity to say I want to do more of this or less of this. So that's all good. Such good stuff.
Yeah, and it's without telling too much, that's kind of something that we're going to talk about in the first episode of the new podcast.
Let's talk about what you have coming down the pike. So we've discussed your journey, we've discussed success then and now. Tell us a little bit about why you decided to do the podcast. And just a brief, because I know your first episode, we're going to dive into it. But just let us know, for anyone who's listening who is like, man, I really wanted to, but I was scared. Like, what motivated you to do it? I guess is my question.
Okay, so I am not going to be the dead horse, but again, wing. Like like when I really say like meeting my 29 sisters from Wing Class 9, you all have really inspired me to do more. Like I thought I was doing a lot. But
You
when I
were
met
and
you, I
are.
was like, but when I met you, I was like, oh, I'm not doing enough. Like I had to push I wasn't pushing myself like I should have.
Okay.
And I was like,
I
no.
think I like the sound of that better because initially it sounds like No, I like that you want to push yourself to do more. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, man, like it just made me reflect, like seeing like so many different people come from different walks of life and
Mm-hmm.
seeing like the many different things they're doing. I'm like, man, like I mean, I knew I wanted to do more, but when I met you all and from different, again, West Coast, North Pole, South Pole, like when I met y'all, like I was like, man, like, and again, you know, like we're one of the 30, we were the 30 and up crew. So
I was nervous. I was like, where are we going with this? We were what? Yes,
no, I was just
yes.
saying like yes, compared to what we
30
normally
plus, we in 30
30 plus
plus.
30 plus
A.
crew. Like, you know, I was just like, man, like I need to do I need to up my game. I needed to up my game.
Mm-hmm.
So and just seeing like the different opportunities that could flourish from what I want to essentially do on one of the projects that I'm actually working on. I knew in order for me to complete that project, like the project is already written out, it's on paper. I have everything laid out, formatted. I have not done it because one of the things that I have to do with this project is that I have to speak to people and I have to interview people and I
Mm-hmm.
have to talk to people and I have to speak in front of rooms. And that is something that I'm not comfortable with yet. I have all my interview questions. I have everything laid down. Raj said you playing, that's why. I have everything laid out. But when I got ready to reach out for my first interview, I got stuck. And I knew I needed an outlet to help me talk about the things that I wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my brain, I was like, you know what? I should do a podcast about the things that I love the most. And this can help me with speaking in front of
Mm-hmm.
people because, you know, I am a behind the scenes person. I need to make a phone call. You need me to go do this?
Yep. You will do all of the things.
I will do all of the behind the scenes work, but it's the in front of the camera stuff that I'm just like, oh, absolutely not. But I can't do that. But I'm going to do it
Yeah.
because that's why I created the podcast, because I wanted something to go along with what the ultimate project is.
I love that.
Because
And
it,
also, you're stretching yourself
yeah,
and training yourself for what you want in the end, which I think is amazing.
yeah. So I'm so the podcast is really like my outlet for me to talk about the things that I want to talk about with my friends. So, you know, it's casual conversation. If you don't know, the podcast is called Circling Back on This, and you can follow it on Instagram at Circling Back on This Pod. And, you know, it's just going to like the main majority of the topics will be about sports, but I'll also be discussing music, black culture, different things that's happening, you know, right now. It's not going to be like your everyday podcast, uh, like that you would normally listen to, because it's going to be casual. It's going to be fun. So, you know, I I'm excited about it because it's really giving me that outlet, and you know, I can once I start talking to people, once I start having these conversations, I know I can go back and start interviewing the people that I need to interview for the ultimate project.
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I want to know, along your journey, you shared some highs, some lows, some ups, some downs. I want to know from you, some of the tips, some of the tricks. Um, how did you motivate yourself? How did you get through it?
God,
So you've mentioned therapy, so we know therapy is on the list.
yeah. Talking to my friends, my sisters, my circle, my core,
Mm-hmm.
like my core really, you know, y'all have my core know who they are. Y'all have gotten me through. You're included in that. Y'all, my core has really gotten me through some of the darkest times, some of the prayer. You know, it was a time where my faith wavered a lot because I just, you know, I never want to regret anything, but when I go back, it's certain things that I do reflect on that made me feel like, dang it, if I would have just did this, or if I should have did that. You know, really prayer, learning how to do self-care. I was never a big person of self-care. Journaling, I never really did a lot of those things until, you know, I learned again back during the wean process.
Listen, wean put us through the ringer.
Okay. Wean was boot camp.
It was boot camp.
But you know, it was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of crying, a lot of wondering why. I don't know how I would have been able to like make it through the journey, you know, without certain people really being there for me.
Yeah.
Because I held a lot in for a long time, and I'm a person, I hold stuff in, and then when it gets too much, when it reached that tipping point, I just let it all out, and I've learned to not do that. So unlearning old behaviors to help me to help me get through the process and learn new behaviors to really get me through the process. So unlearning and learning at the same time, that's a struggle in itself.
The rewiring, man, it's tiring.
And I had to think, one of the things that my therapist that we've been doing on this journey is knowing my worth and knowing that I'm all these amazing things in spite of what has happened to me, what I've been through.
That's
like
so good.
I've never, sometimes you like, you have to know your worth. You have to know your worth. Sometimes it's easier said than done, because when you've been through it, the rough and tough, my mom on here now, I can't cuss, but
hey mom.
But when you've been through it, like, woo, and then having those outlets to where I could just really like let it all out and just unfilteredly cry, like it was, man, like that was that learning, that knowing my work piece was really that was it. That was the one. That was the one for sure.
That's so good. And what I heard you say was releasing, whether it's through communicating with a therapist, communicating with your community, whether it's writing in a journal, whether you're releasing tears, and then the rewiring of old habits and learning new ones. That is so important. And I'm happy that you shared that with us, because I think even for me, if I'm completely honest, the last 2 weeks while we didn't have a show is because I just couldn't get it together. We had a guest cancel, and I was just like, well, is the show good? Should we do this anymore? Is it worth it? Am I worth it?
Girl.
And you can go through a whole spiral of, what should I do? Am I doing the right thing? And for a couple of weeks, I was just like, I'm doing it all wrong. This isn't it. I shouldn't be doing it. And then through community and communication, and, I had to cry it out a few times. I had the conversation with Christy. Do I want to say every day, I'm not doing this podcast because I'm afraid? No, I don't want to say that. Right. And so, thank you for sharing that.
But you know what?
Thank you, Minda.
You know what? Now I'm about to get personal. Even though I know we're on a time limit here with your podcast, I know you don't like to go a certain time, but I'm about to get real personal real quick.
Share with us.
The other day, when you and I had our conversation, that release that we did with each other, Like, and just for our viewers, just for viewers' sake, just not to spill too much.
Look at this podcast host. Okay.
Look, just for our viewers' sake, I called Ashley. Ashley called me for a favor.
Yes.
I delivered on my favor.
Big time.
I delivered on my favor. But in the midst of her calling for the favor, I started talking to her about something that I had been struggling with for 2 months now. Struggling. Like it's been such a struggle, right? It has been such a struggle. And I think when we both talked to each other about what our struggle was, and we just decided to be intentional to just take 2 hours out of our day.
2 hours.
We were trying to figure up a whole nother day. Like, no, we should do it the next day. I was like, no, let's do it. We took 2 hours of our day to literally meditate with God, journal, read, and really release everything that was built up in us.
Yep.
Girl, I think that, and then look, here we are today. Like, I think that moment in time was so defining, because it let me realize that even though, I was struggling really bad with what I was dealing with, like, it goes back to what I said earlier. It's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And we're going to do it, and we're going to make it.
Yep. I love that. And I think that's the mic drop moment of the podcast. I think we just hit it. So I just want to circle back. You see what I did there?
I see what you did there.
So you have a podcast dropping. I'm excited for you. Can't wait to support you on that. I want you to also talk to us. I know you are heavy on the Clubhouse scene. So how can we support you? Drop all of the things that you're doing. I'll have all the information in the show notes, but let us know what you're doing, how we can help you and support you.
So if everyone could go, if you do not follow me, you can follow me on my personal Instagram at SheHerDola, because I'll be dropping content there, as well as on my podcast Instagram page, which is Circling Back on This Pod. There you can click the link in the bio, and you can subscribe to Apple, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and get the notifications, and Spotify, and get the notifications for when the first episode drops, as well as click the link on the playlist, because the playlist is very important. And I'm also on Clubhouse every Thursday. I host. I'm a guest host with 94 by 50, and we talk about sports. So if you're interested in sports, we talk specifically basketball on that particular day, Thursdays at 2:30 p.m. And hey, Ma. And also, let me think. It's some other things that's coming down the pipeline, but yes, be sure to follow me on my podcast page, especially if you love sports, music, especially sports, because we about to get knee deep into the playoffs, so the content is going to be rolling out.
Love that.
So so be sure to check me out, guys.
I want to thank you again for being a guest. I want to thank you for your friendship. I want to thank you for your heart. I want to thank you for your support. And so I would love for you all to follow and support our girl, she, her, Dola, Tondea, or Michelle.
And just a little tidbit. I wasn't going to say anything, but the amateur expert is a featured guest on the first episode of the podcast. So be on the lookout for that.
Yes. I'm excited to be on the other side of things, and can't wait to see all the greatness that is coming from this and from you. So thank you again. We love you.
Thanks for having me, sis.
My pleasure. You. Oh, you know what we got to do?
Oh, we got to take our picture?
We got to be still. 5 seconds. Perfect. That's
So I said,
that's what we do. We love and support one
okay.
another. It's the tribe, it's the community. You guys be good to yourself and be good to others. Have a great week, and we will see you next week because we back in this thing.
Bye.
Bye.